Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Let's seek the truth and travel the long road to justice together. What you know, Alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis from Walterboro, South Carolina. I'm Gigi here in town covering week 2 of the Alex Murdaugh trial. And today was a very interesting day in court. We're going to get to that. But first, I got to give some thanks. Thanks to Rose, Tammy, Cassie, and Johnson for the donations. I appreciate your generosity very much. So I am wearing my Pink Floyd The Wall shirt. So I thought it was only appropriate we do a music fact about Pink Floyd's The Wall. This album was released in 1979 and it has sold at least 23 million copies in the US alone and making it the third highest selling album of all time and the highest selling hard rock album of all time. So there you go. I jammed to it coming down here on Sunday. So where did we pick up today? Cross-exam with Special Agent Croft from SLED. So on June 8th, he interviewed Rogan Wilson. Now, if you remember, Rogan Wilson is the kid who had, or young man, I should say, who had the dog at the kennel and was communicating with Paul shortly before minutes before the murders. After that, he went to the Moselle property around lunchtime. The defense says, this was a consent search and not a search warrant. So Special Agent Croft says he wasn't aware of a search warrant. The defense also points out there were no limitations on the scope of the search warrant, and agents went through the house and the gun room and everything with family members. So the defense asked, did anybody look for bloody clothing? And Croft said, I don't know, I was in the gun room. And Croft was told about the type of ammunition used by investigators, and he was told 12-gauge turkey or BB load and buckshot. The defense talks about the ammo price and says the ammo cost was $11.99. And you couldn't buy that in June for that price. Why? Because COVID. Things had shut down and supply was short because people couldn't work. And the defense also points out that none of the guns brought into the courtroom were used to kill Paul or Maggie. So on June 8th, SLED was diving in ponds and waterways looking for those murder weapons. Special Agent Croft says, as far as he knows, they have not found those murder weapons. And they found 20 to 25 guns at Moselle, but it's common in the area to use those guns to hunt. There's a lot of open forest area here, and it's common for people to hunt. And so the 300 Blackout is a semi-automatic, and to shoot that gun, you have to pull the trigger each time. It's not like you pull it and it sprays. So they bring the big old gun back into the courtroom. That thing looks scary. It reminds me of something out of like Black Ops, the video game or something. And he points it to the ceiling and says the shell ejects to the right after it's been fired. Croft says he can't say how far the shells travel after being ejected, but the guns Alec bought Buster and Paul before Paul lost his had thermal scopes which needed to be charged, and it's often used to hunt at night, and it is heat sensitive. We're going to hear from the guy who made those guns, who, by the way, is a relative of Alex. So then they go on and talk about finding Maggie's phone the next day. John Marvin, who's Alex's brother, helped find it. They were able to locate it using Find My iPhone. Special Agent Croft was there when it was located, and Alex gave them the passcode to unlock it. So a Faraday bag. We've heard about that in this case a few times. Well, what is a Faraday bag? It is a special bag to use where it shields a mobile phone or small digital device from radio waves entering the bag and reaching that device, or to stop radio waves escaping through the bag from the device, and it also prevents tampering. Special Agent Croft was asked if the phone was put in one of these Faraday bags, and he said no. So then they go on to talk about, and we know this, if you follow true crime, this is very true, whoever finds the body is usually the first person they look at. And Croft says, yes, of course, we were looking at Alec. He was a person of interest pretty much right away. The defense mentions that SLED press release where they tell the public there's no danger to the community, which always stuck out with me as they know who did this. So, and it also plays into the defense's point that they zeroed in on him from day one and never looked anywhere else. So the defense asks if SLED went to his mom's house on the 8th to look for any evidence, and Special Agent Croft says, I don't know. The defense says, but you were at every interview with Alec and you knew daily developments. And Croft said they did have briefings. And the defense says at no point from June to August did you guys go to his mom's house to look for evidence. That happened in September, months after the murders. So the defense also talks about the people at Moselle on the 8th while that search warrant or consent search was happening. The defense said that his friends came to help him, but he didn't lawyer up. Croft says his friends were there and they were making calls to Alex's lawyers. And on June 13th, they go back to Moselle for a follow-up search of the residence. Croft said he wasn't sure if that was a search warrant or consensual, and the defense says that Alec gave consent each time. So the defense says you seized 300 Blackout magazines found in a Ford F-150 on the property. And the defense points out that Alex said Paul left stuff everywhere in his interview with police. And the defense says you don't know who drove the F-150. They didn't fingerprint it. No analysis was done on the car. Nothing. They talk a lot about the blackout rounds and mention a mound of dirt at this shooting range in the distance. So when asked who went to the dirt pile to search for projectiles, Croft said nobody. And the defense says, well, that could have been compared to projectiles at the crime scene if someone did dig and find something. So they talk about an interview with SLED on June 10th that took place in a SLED SUV at John Marvin's hunting lodge. Let's try this again. John Marvin's hunting lodge in Varnville. The defense mentions a lot of people were interviewed that day with consent. Some of those were John Marvin, Buster, Alex's other brother, Randy. And the defense points out it looked like the cavalry was coming with lots of cars. So Croft explains there were 2 agents for each interview they did in a separate car at the same time. Everybody was interviewed at the same time. The defense also says they weren't told their phones would be extracted, and Croft said they all knew we would ask for their phones to be extracted. The defense also asked if buccal swabs were taken from everyone, which is swabbing the inside of the cheeks to get DNA. Croft says he knows Buster did, but he's not sure about John Marvin. By the way, we know Buster was in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's a drive. He was nowhere near the Moselle property on the night of the murders. That's been proven. They get into a conversation and said, this is about what did you hear? I or they? I did him so bad, or was it they did him so bad? So the defense asks, are you 100% confident that's what he said? And Croft said 100% what I heard and interpreted him as saying. And the defense says, well, the jury can hear it too. And the defense asks if he wrote down what he heard that night. And Croft said he made a mental note of it because the investigation was still in the very early stages and they had no information at that point to challenge him on those statements. The defense asks if he considered that a confession, and Croft said they were going to follow up on it. So the defense says, well, why not ask Alec, what do you mean? And Croft said, we were going to follow up on it. And the defense says, well, did that mean I was a bad dad? Did it mean I killed him? You made a mental note, but you didn't write it down. So they play the clip in court. They play it at regular speed, and then they play it at 1/3 speed. I hear they. I turn to Anjanette. She hears they. Somebody comes over to us. They hear I. It's going to be one of those things, y'all. If you followed this trial, it's going to be one of those hotly debated what was said thing. They need to get like the FBI to do their really good, like clean up of that audio so we can know for sure. Somebody needs to get on that because I hear they. The defense asked if he reviewed the SLED transcript before testifying, and Croft said he didn't know they had one. So they also asked, do you tell the person you're interviewing you're going to record them? And he says no. Alec was asking for a meeting to get an update to see if you had made progress on the murders. And Croft said, yes. I think this is when that statement was made, is what he's referring to. But the defense says y'all had other plans for that meeting. And he said he didn't go thinking I'm going to be interviewed, talking about Alec. So Croft says, to my knowledge, he knew he was meeting with myself and Agent Owen. And you asked point blank, did you kill your wife and son? And Croft said he was asked that. And the defense says at that time, was he a full murder suspect? And Croft says he was a person of interest. And then the witness was asked, did he answer the questions you asked? And he said yes. The defense says you told Maggie's family Alec was in that circle of the investigation, and you told him he was the only one in that circle. And Croft said, I didn't say he was the only one, but they specifically asked about Alec. Maggie's family described their observation of the relationship with Maggie and Paul and Alec, and they say he had a loving relationship with both. Let me tell you all about our sponsor of the week, Pros. There's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to hair care, and that's because your hair and your hair goals are completely unique. My hair is dry and frizzy. I wanted to get rid of these problems. Thanks to my personalized Pros routine, I can honestly say I've never been in more love with my hair. First, Pros asked me for my hair goals, which was smoother hair with color protection. Their in-depth consultation also asks about you as a person. Pros ask me really unexpected things like my age, hair length, do I get split ends, and even my zip code, so that Pros can factor in the environment my hair lives in. Next, Pros analyzed all my answers and handpicked clean ingredients to help me reach my hair goals. I used the Scalp Remedy, Clarifying Cleanse, Color Extending Shampoo, and the Smoothing Solution Volume Building Conditioner. I also used the Boar's Hairbrush that makes my hair super smooth. My hair is completely different. The frizz is gone and it's so much softer. All their ingredients are sustainably sourced, ethically gathered, and cruelty-free. They're also the first custom beauty brand to go carbon neutral. If you're not 100% positive Pros is the best care hair you've had, they will take the products back, no questions asked. You know your girl's been lacking in the sleep department lately, but I found something that helps me sleep much better when I do sleep. Who knew that a better pillowcase is all you need for better sleep? Let's talk about practicing self-care while you sleep. Set yourself up with better sleep this year with Blissy's award-winning 100% mulberry silk pillowcases. It gives you better hair and skin. Seriously, silk, it's what's best for your hair and skin. It reduces frizz, tangles, and prevents breakage. That's because it keeps the moisture in your hair and your skincare products and natural moisture on your skin, unlike cotton does. You can say goodbye to wrinkly, dry, flaky skin in the morning and wake up with healthier and shinier hair that won't take you an hour to fix. Blissy's pillowcase regulates temperatures, keeping you cool at night. You don't have to flip the pillow anymore, thank goodness. Unlike other silk pillowcases, these are the highest quality silk. And guess what? They're machine washable and durable. Valentine's Day is coming up, so why not give the gift of better sleep? Plus, it comes in gift-ready packaging they'll be sure to love. I love that the pillow stays cool, I don't have to flip it, and no more sleep lines. Everybody loves them. They have a ton of different prints and colors, and they make great gifts because there's an option for literally anyone. Hey, men, they love them too. They have over 1 million raving fans, and you need to be next. Try now, risk-free for 60 nights at blissy.com/whattheworld. Get an additional 30% off. That's Blissy, BLISSY.com/whattheworld, and use code WhatTheWorld to get 30% off. Your skin and your hair will thank you. The defense asked, were you told in that interview that they had warned Maggie that there was some risk to her family from the boating accident? And Croft said, I don't recall any information about any threats being said. He was provided names of those people who may have information, and that was kind of it. So on recross, on June 8th, they were searching for firearms at Moselle consistent with those used at the murder scene. And they verified COVID had an effect on the availability of ammo. And so also the weapons that were found did have mixed ammo in them. So we know that Paul was shot with two different kinds of shotgun ammunition. And also, are you aware both victims had stippling, which is powder burns due to a close range shot? And he said yes. So the next witness is John Benningfield. He's the one that made these guns for Buster and Paul. He also works for the DNR. This is a side gig for him. And he is related to Alec. Their different grandmothers were sisters. So they're like second cousins. So he made the 300 blackouts for Alec as a Christmas gift to Buster and Paul for them to shoot hogs with, because hogs apparently can destroy your crops and wreak all kinds of havoc on your property. And so John steered Alec to the blackout due to the knockdown power it had for killing hogs. He also explains the AR-15 parts can fire any bullet compatible with that has a magazine with 223 and 556 caliber ammo being the most common. So Paul's gun was black and Buster's was tan. Alec wanted thermal scopes because you hog hunt at night. He took the finished guns to Alec's office. Now, to have a suppressor, you have to have a federal background check. And he was going to put those guns in a trust. But what happened is the paperwork was never completed. And so he paid for these suppressors, which are about $1,000 a piece, but never got them because that paperwork wasn't done. Now, what was the price? So the thermal optics, by the way, cost about $1,500 to $1,800 each. What was the final price for the two guns that Alec had made for Buster and Paul? $9,188. And that was December 23rd, 2016. So they inquired about the third gun, the replacement gun. And that one cost $875. So when asked, why is this so much cheaper? Well, because there was no optics or suppressor. That was delivered on January 10th of 2017. And Maggie was the one who did the paperwork, paid for it, and picked it up. After the murders, the witness got a call from SLED, who he knew through law enforcement, named Jeff Croft. And he asked for the paperwork and those canceled checks. So that was given to this agent. For the replacement gun, though, the paperwork was lost. And he said it was the only gun in many years he did not have a record for. The replacement blackout, by the way, was delivered. I have April 2018. I got 2 dates here. I'll clarify that tomorrow. Sorry, y'all. So on Cross, he did spend time with Alec and the boys, and he said the relationship between father and sons was really good. So the next witness is Lieutenant David Dove, who's with SLED. He is a supervisor of computer crimes and explains how they extract all the data from computers and hard drives and phones. Look, I'm going to tell you, this dude has enough training for 3 lifetimes. It took like 20 minutes for him to go through all the credentials and all the things he's taken. Smart man. So let's get to Maggie's phone, because this is where the jury really, the courtroom was so quiet because we're finally at a point, a week and a couple of days in, where we're getting to things we want to know, such as details about phone calls, texts, where was somebody located. The phone was received in airplane mode, Wi-Fi was off, and powered on when he got it. The screen actually had a notification from CVS Pharmacy, and the battery was low. She had location services turned on for, if you have an iPhone, you can have location services while using the app. The apps that he said she had for that were Amazon, Apple Watch, and Blue Cross Blue Shield toolkit, which I have. It's just your little hub for your health insurance. And they use location just when being used. So on Maggie's phone, they looked for activity on the day of the murders. She had used around 68 gigs on that phone total. And if you were to print that out, that would be probably over 9,000 pages. I would hate to see what my phone's printouts would be. We would have to cut down a small forest. And so, outgoing by Maggie, she placed a call to someone named Barbara at 7:50 p.m. and that call lasted for 2 minutes and 46 seconds. That was the last call Maggie ever made. Okay, so received calls but missed. These are going to come back in the timeline later. But Alex, 9:03 p.m., 9:04 p.m., 9:06 p.m., 9:45 and 10:03 p.m. So, text messages, there was a group text that involved the whole family. Some of the names I heard: John Marvin, Liz, Maggie, Alec. And at 8:31, this group text was sent. And the text said, I plan to go visit dad tomorrow. Anyone planning to go? Someone said they were in court all week. That was read at 8:49 p.m. And then there was another reply at 8:49, which was read. There was a text message from Alec at 9:08, not read. At this point, unfortunately, her and Paul had been brutally murdered. 9:34 p.m., incoming text from Rogan, the guy with the dog, asking her to have Paul call him. So let's kind of go back onto a history of her phone from earlier in the evening. At 8:17 p.m., her phone was unplugged. At 8:17 and 41 seconds to 8:18 and 29 seconds, there were 38 steps recorded. You know, on your iPhone, it records your steps. It tells you how many calories you've burned and all that. Not always accurate, but these are the figures that he gave. At 8:30 p.m., also the Poshmark app was working, and it could have been in the background. So from 8:30 to 8:33, there were 43 steps taken. 8:49 p.m., the display comes on the phone. Now, that could have been from a notification. It could have been from human movement. We're getting close to the times of the murders within minutes here. At 8:49 and 27 seconds, the phone was unlocked. A text from family read. So that was the text that was sent at 8:31. She read it at 8:49. At 8:49 and 31 seconds, her phone is locked for good. That's it. It is so quiet in the courtroom, y'all, and the jurors were leaning up. They have a display of all this stuff that they can see. We cannot. They were completely engaged. I did not see any nodders today at all. At 8:53 and 8 seconds, there is a phone orientation change. So the display, if you have an iPhone, you know this. I'm not sure about Android, but it went from landscape to portrait. That orientation change, according to the witness, is mostly a human event. 8:53 and 15 seconds to 8:55 and 32 seconds, there are 59 steps taken. So 8:53 and 24 seconds, that's the end time for that orientation change from portrait. It also shows the display goes on and then off. 8:54 and 34 seconds, start time of camera on the phone. That's for 1 second. So essentially what he says, this could be used for like if you have your face unlock on your phone. It was not successful. Now, should the camera had seen Maggie's face, it would have unlocked. If it saw someone else's face, it wouldn't. This is at 8:54 and 34 seconds. So I'm beginning to think at this point they were probably murdered. So 8:54, 40 seconds, the orientation changes to landscape. And then 4 seconds later, orientation changed from landscape. So 8:55:52, it ends the portrait mode, which is straight up. The witness said that would have been caused by someone holding the phone. And what was interesting is yesterday during one of the interviews we heard with Alec, he asked when he was told they found her phone if they got prints off of it. So I don't know, just a little suspicious. 9 o'clock p.m. Activities sensor data. It shows steps and distance traveled. It doesn't mean the steps occurred at 9 p.m. It's a range of 9 to 10 for total steps. They didn't get into that, so maybe tomorrow, but 9:04 and 23 seconds, there's an incoming call from Alec. 9:06 and 12 seconds, start time of orientation changed to portrait. So again, someone's got it in their hand lifting it up. 9:06:14, 2 seconds later, incoming call from Alec. 9:06 and 20 seconds. The portrait orientation mode is over. 9:06 and 51 seconds. Incoming call from Alec. 9:07, the display is on and off. Now, that could have been a notification. You know how your phone lights up, even if it's locked, if you have notifications enabled. At 9:08 and 58 seconds, there's an incoming text from Alec. Going to check on mom. Be right back. So then 9:31, 44, 22 minutes in between the text from Alec and this next part, the display comes on, which is likely a notification. 9:34 and 14 seconds, she gets that text from Rogan, tell Paul to call me. 9:44 and 48 seconds, there's an incoming call from PA, and that's the name they said. But the last 4 digits were Alec's phone number, so that was a little confusing. At 9:47 and 23 seconds, text from Alec, call me, babe. So on June the 8th, 3:12 and 22 seconds, Maggie's phone is found a half to a quarter of a mile from the house. And so that's kind of where we left off today. It gives a little bit of a time. I really do think this helps the timeline of establishing when the murders actually occurred. Now, tomorrow, I'm very curious to see what we find from Alex's phone and Paul's phone. The plan right now, and I really hope this works with the connection I have here, but hopefully me and Jeanette and Kathy Russin, executive producer for Law and Crime and one of my longtime legal friends, we want to do a live and talk about all this phone stuff. We were maybe going to do it tonight, but we felt it would be better to wait until we have everybody's phone data to just chew the fat about it, see what we can get our little sleuthing caps on and see what we could figure out. So anyways, that was day 7 in a nutshell. I try to leave out things that are just irrelevant. There was a lot of, or not irrelevant, but there was a lot of repetitive talk about finding shell casings and stuff like that. I mean, just to sum it up, they were all over the property, y'all. So that's kind of how that was. So tomorrow night, I'm going to bring you day 8. The best of the testimony. I think it's going to be a really good day with this phone expert, and that's kind of the first part of really trying to piece together timelines and seeing the interactions and things like that. So, hope you guys have an amazing evening. Remember, you can skip the ads if you want. Just saying. Anyways, have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night from Walterboro. You girls going to bed.